Hello, everyone. I'm Justine. I'm the director of the TMA Education Foundation. We have Steve Thompson here today, who is our program facilitator of the Education Foundation as well. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today. We have Terry Stroh, the director of the Northern Kane County Regional Vocational System, and Dr. Todd Stirn, who is the work-based learning specialist for the Northern Kane County Regional Vocational System. So I will turn it over to the experts on this topic today.
Thank you, Justine. I don't know about experts, but we've been a lot of experience with going through this and have found ways to work with companies. So we want to kind of share that out. I will say that with such a small group this morning, if you have questions, you want to throw those in the chat box or kind of raise your hand. We can get to those questions as we're working through things and be able to go from there. As Justine mentioned, I'm Terry Stroh. I'm the director for the Northern Kane County Regional Vocational System. And that's a fancy way of saying that I'm the director overseeing 11 different high schools out here in northern Kane County. Two of those have manufacturing, as well as two of those have welding as well. So we're always trying to work with companies and trying to find placements for our students, either for jobs after they graduate or for internships, things like that. Today's topic, though, is us going through how we work with our internship program and how we can help you put those together there for your company. Todd, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Todd Stirn. Long history in education. I began in Lutheran schools for 17 years, transitioned to public education where I served as a principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent of a school district for 14 years. Following COVID, wanted to retool, and now I'm doing work-based learning, promoting career and technical education programs, connecting student learners with their career pathways, working with business and industry to understand their needs and their goals, and making sure that we're pairing tomorrow's workforce with businesses today.
So the big shift for everyone, you may remember when you were in high school, how we always had early release for students that wanted to go on and go to work and go to jobs in the afternoon. And there's been a big shift over the last probably 4 or 5 years here to go from that idea of cooperative learning or someone who was just going out and getting a job, working McDonald's, pushing carts at Jewel, working the grocery store, stocking shelves, those kind of things. To now, there's this shift to internship or actual work-based learning. And this is getting into the classes that students have taken while they're in school and trying to get them opportunities for job shadowing or for internships in that field. Letting them try to figure out, do they actually like this field that they thought they were going to go into as a career, or do we need to work with them right now on making that shift? So our job is to find companies that are willing to take students in and work with those students to show them the ropes, let them kind of see what's going on, and really trying to help either motivate them to continue their education further, or we need to get them to shift and go into something else while they're still in high school.
So one of the big things that we do, and I'm going to flip this around because as business people, it's kind of like trying to understand the mind of an educator, and that can be a little squirrely at times anyway. So one of the things that we want to flip is the script. Instead of education trying to tell business what they should value, really education should be valuing what business needs. So that's something that we promote all the time. But when we're connecting students or your future ready workers with your organization, unless they have family members who have that background, unless they have family members or they know someone who's in that business or organization, they just don't have the background knowledge. So one of Covey's famous quotes is, seek to understand before seeking to be understood. So one of the first things that we do, or one of the best things you can do as you engage with educational institutions, is let them know what you're really about, what drives you, your profile, your mission statement. Every organization that I work with, they're very proud of what they do, and they should be. They're like, this is an area where we're best in class. This is an area where we're unique. This is an area that makes us stand apart. This is part of the culture and climate of our organization. But the better you can tell your story to the future workforce, the better off we're going to be as educational entities or other areas that provide the future workforce, better prepared to pair the right person with you. Because what we've learned in our studies of young people today, more than ever, is it's not just about a paycheck that motivates them. A paycheck, of course, motivates all of us, pay fit benefits, retirement, but they also want to know that the work that they do is meaningful, that the work that they do benefits society, that the work that they do helps other people. So the more you can align the things that you make, the things that you produce to helping society or blending society, that resonates with what we're finding in our surveys with future workforce. So those are just some of the key things, and we can talk about that a little bit later as well.
I think one of the big parts here, Todd, that we found is that as we go in to find information out about companies, where companies have a lot of times said that they can't work with high school students or they're not allowed to work with high school students, once we start to learn more about that company, we're able to find ways that we can connect. And how do we get students in there for those opportunities?
Yeah, typically those barriers are fallacies that have just stood around. They've been fallacies that have stood for so long that they're accepted as truth, even though they're not necessarily truth.
So when we go in, we don't ever say that it's a this or our way or the highway kind of mentality. We want to give companies opportunities to engage with our schools, with ourselves, with our students. So we look at a couple different ways. So we had developed this process or this system here of getting companies engaged at different levels. So whether it's a bronze level and we're working with, just coming in and maybe hosting employer tours or having guest speakers come out to our schools, how do we work through that with our employers? Kind of kind of putting their toe in the water, as you might say, with these opportunities. So how do we get them involved? Moving from there, as a silver level, how do we get them to be part of our advisory boards? As Todd mentioned, this cannot be a school district telling the businesses kind of mentality. This has to be us listening to our business partners on what they need, what they're looking for. Because if we're not producing what our business partners look for, then we're doing a disservice to our students as well as our business partners. And we don't want to do that. So we need to hear as part of advisory boards, what we're missing, what we're doing well, and what we need to work on. From there, Todd and I, a big portion of our job is finding internships for our students. So which companies are willing to take students in, show them the ropes, this is not kind of that mentality of just letting students go and let them do a job. This is really trying to find companies that have good mentorship opportunities and how do we work through that. We can talk a little bit about the legal ramifications of that as we go through some things here, but then going on to that gold level, our ultimate goal is to have students move from our internship program, from our programs into our internship program, and then into an apprenticeship program, whether that's through the TMA, it's through one of our many community colleges we work with. How do we work to get those students into that career? How do we move them forward along that path? And then ultimately get them paid for what they're doing.
So Terry, I want to share the presentation, the chat, and the chat is disabled. So maybe you can share it, or Justine, maybe you can open up the chat. So in this presentation, which we want you to have access to, there's links that you can click on that open up different things that are user-friendly tools for you. One of that is the internship checklist. And we'll be talking about some of the key components in that checklist later on in the presentation. But when we think about these internships, I think Terry mentioned, think of it as a long-term job interview. So, and you're test driving an intern. So you have an intern who already has some career interest in your area. by the state of Illinois, for it to qualify as work-based learning, has to be a minimum of 60 hours of real life work-based experience. So if you were an example, if you were studying to be a veterinary assistant, you would not want to be working at a PetSmart putting dog food on a shelf. That's not what they're looking for. Then they'd be looking for a veterinary assistant to be working alongside other vet technicians or veterinarians. So in manufacturing, they'd be looking for someone to be able to do certain duties or job shadow or work alongside other people and have a minimum of 60 hours experience. Um, and many businesses will work on maybe a special project or a business responsibility or some other daily function that benefits the company and benefits the intern. It's important you do your homework in advance, kind of think about who's the right person to pair this mentor, who's the right person to mentor the intern. Like maybe you have a great employee, but the employee is kind of a negative person. That might not be a great person to pair that intern with because you want to pair the intern with someone who is energetic, who believes in the career pathway, who thinks that, this is something good and something that could be a future for them. As well, when we're able to share this, you'll see some job descriptions. Typically, what we do is like if you're interested in hosting an intern at some point, we're more than happy to work with you. We can look at your initial job postings that you already use, and then we can tailor that to how it would look like for an internship that could maybe then develop into apprenticeship or that could have maybe develop over time into a long lasting future employment relationship. Terry, if you would just screen share the summer internship opportunities that we have for the summer. So this summer alone in our region, we're going to place approximately a little over 300 summer interns across 10 different career fields, from automotive to business and finance to IT, culinary, education, and also engineering, manufacturing, trades. So we have many different things. We have companies like Elgin Sweeper, ITW Shakeproof, Matrix Design, Lakeview Precision, Manufacturing, Hoffer Plastics. So even companies that are new coming on, like Lauderdale Electric, they're going to take an electrical tech, but they're also going to take office assistants and things like this. So it's like where do you find it to test drive interns and see how they fit? It could be in quality control. ATI, we're bringing them on with quality measurements this summer. It could be in logistics. It could be in finance and bills payable. Um, and it could be on the manufacturing floor itself. So many of these opportunities exist. And within the Department of Labor standards, we know we can find the right fit for your organization as well. So then that kind of covers some of those things. And students have resumes that we work with. Companies can interview the interns. And we can go on to the next slide.
Like Todd, we'll go back one for just a second here. We have in here a sample MOU, and this is done to where we have an agreement with those companies that we are sending students out to. And what this does, it helps cover the school districts and it helps cover the companies as far as legalities go. While students are out for an internship, they are actually covered under the school's liability insurance. Now, that's not to say that if the company allows them to do something that's negligent or there's negligence found, that would, protect you completely. But there is some protection as far as having students out there in companies doing some of this work, working with someone. As I mentioned, we're not trying to turn students loose and have them go off and run a machine and do other things. There are Department of Labor standards that we still have to follow, but we're able to, like Todd said, go through that job description and see which of those jobs you have that do meet within the regulations for the Department of Labor and OSHA and how we can get students involved. The big piece there is, Todd mentioned before, the majority of students that we survey are still choosing their career paths based on conversations they have at home with their parents, with a family member. They know someone in the field. So this is not really being done. Nothing against our school counselors. They do a great job working with our students, but the major conversations for career choices are happening at home, not with those counselors. So we have that MOU there as well to have that in place. And then Todd, we have the welcome and orientation.
So let's say that your company is like, we'd like to dip our feet into the waters of internships and test drive an intern. It's important that you spend some time looking at that checklist that I provided and making sure that you're actually prepared to bring an intern on site so that it's a win-win for the company and for the intern. Some of it starts before the internship even begins. If you want to build excitement and you want to build readiness for the internship, then typically instead of their first day being the first time they set foot in your door, after you review those resumes, you want to invite the intern to come and visit. And on that visit, that's where you're going to give them orientation, maybe a tour. You're going to introduce them to some of the coworkers. So on their first day, it's not because sometimes with communications, we all get busy. Unfortunately, we've had some interns show up in the past. They show up for their internship and the people they're working with, like, and who are you and why are you here? So it's kind of like you have that pre-orientation tour. They get to meet each other. There's some excitement about, I'm going to be starting in June. Give them a tour. Even things like, here are the bathrooms. Here's where your lunch is stored. This is the break room. Introduce them. Any paperwork that needs to be filled out, you can complete that. And I want to emphasize this. Talk about great marketing and publicity for you. If you give these students like a shirt or a hat or some type of swag like that, you're going to get free promotion and marketing throughout their school, because I see it all the time where the students are so happy to rock out the company swag that they're provided with, and they brag about their internships to their friends, and it builds up that excitement even at the school level. And the other person who you really want to have on that orientation tour, and whenever possible, whether you host interns or not, please reach out to us and work with us so that we can get counselors into your manufacturing facilities, because counselors who meet with the students know nothing about the type of work that takes place out there. And if they don't have that background knowledge, it's hard for them to educate students about possibilities for their future, as Terry was talking about. Next slide.
Well, I think really quickly there, a story to go along with what you just said, Todd. About 5 years ago, we took a group of counselors out to auto engineering in Carpentersville. I know they're a TMA member as well. And they make switches, they make controls for forklifts and fighter jets, and they make hearing protection for all these things. And just the other day, there was a story on the news that a lot of the switches and controls for the Artemis spacecraft were all made right there at Auto Engineering. And all of a sudden, the very next morning, I get a link for that newscast sent to me by one of the counselors going, "Oh my God, I remember when we went to Auto to see what they make there." So those kind of things stick with those counselors, and then they're able to talk to students more about the opportunities that are available in these career fields. So a big piece there with that.
So part of the tour topics, I mentioned this a little bit already. You want to resonate with the intern or any future hire for that matter. Any future hire, I would recommend an orientation tour, even as you go through your hiring process. So one of the things that I learned in my career in education, even as a superintendent hiring administrators, and I would recommend this to you as well. If you're interviewing more than one person for a job and you're bringing them on around the same time, and let's say I see that I have Stephen, I have Tom on this one. So let's say that Stephen's meeting with one candidate, then Stephen has Tom take around the other candidate. And while Tom's giving him a tour, Tom's doing an impromptu interview at the same time that a tour is going on. So Steven's doing a formal interview, Tom's doing an informal interview, finding out other things at the same time. And then after it's all over, then Steven and Tom come together and then they talk about the formal interview and they talk about the informal interview and the takeaways that they got from that related to the person that they're hiring. Because it's not just the head knowledge that they have, it's their relationship abilities, it's their ability to work in a team. It's all of those factors that I've come to learn that companies really value. Um, and so, but the one thing, again, I'm going to go back to showcasing what makes you best in class, showcasing what you're most proud of, showcasing how the things that you make impact the world around us. And then very clearly with the interns and any future hires, you need to be very clear about what you value in an employee, what you value in your culture and climate. And what we found is that this is much more powerful than like putting out like an Indeed ad where you just get a bunch of hodgepodge of resumes, people just looking for anything, or a sign in front of your building. Now you're actually growing your own culture. You're growing your own future working class that really has come up in your family, in your line of thinking, valuing what you value. That's one of the greatest things that I see about the internship program. And even if you weren't part of the internship program, how I think you need to twist a little bit with the hiring process to make it more like a hybrid like that.
We talk a
So
lot
yeah,
about
go ahead.
we talk a lot with students, and so many of them, as Todd mentioned, are actually concerned. But how do these parts that they're making fit out there into the real world? How are they impacting the environment? How are they impacting society? So those are all big things that we have students asking a lot of questions there. We always tell people with this, the goals and expectations for the internship position. We tell our interns all the time, this is a long-term job interview because people like yourselves are members of the TMA. They may be members of other organizations that are out there. You all know one another. You attend functions with one another. So if you do a bad job at one or you give a bad impression at one, that could impact you over the course of not just that company, but other companies as well. So telling the intern that this is a long-term job interview is a chance for the companies to get to know students and see, do they really fit our culture and our company? And do we want to bring them in and spend more time and resources bringing them into the fold there with this?
So the last bullet point there before we go to the next slide is your website, your videos, and your handouts. I already said that most of these high school students, unless they have a family member or they know someone who works in that type of industry, they don't have any background knowledge on it. So if they were seeking to learn more, seeking to understand about your company, they're going to look at your website, they're going to look at your social media, they're going to look at your video links. So one of the things that if you host interns, if you have that culture where everyone like is valued, then having a powerful video. And when I talk about a powerful video, I'm talking like a minute and a half video. I'm not talking about a 5-minute video. You have some type of video that highlights your company, what you produce, how it fits into the world, highlight a couple of your workers and why they value their experience with you. If you have hosted an intern, highlight that intern. Now you're thinking, well, we don't have the resources to do that. Well, guess what? We do. So we actually have students in video production. So free of charge to you and your company, you could have interns. We talk about interns with manufacturing, but we could have interns actually come in, meet with you, ask these same type of things we're talking about, and then our student interns would actually work with you to develop a video for you for these type of things to highlight your company free of charge. So that's another way that interns can help because that's a whole career path too. Next slide. So again, things that we kind of talked about with the orientation. you're going to have things about PPE, and many times companies provide the PPE. Sometimes if there's a requirement like steel-toed shoes, we even work with making sure the interns have those things, have the requirements they need, cover the anything related to that, their breaks, um, all your company policies related to pictures, related to how they interact with clients if they're on the floor, whatever it is. Those are the times to kind of cover that. Next slide.
So here with this, establishing that ongoing partner support. So when we go ahead and we meet with the company, we find out about their needs, their desires, what they make, all the things that make them the best. We need to go above and beyond that though. So anytime we place an intern out at companies, those companies have our cell phone numbers. If there's an issue with what's going on with an intern, if there's a question that comes up, it could be 7 o'clock, 7:30 at night. They have a question that comes up from their HR department, from the manager, the supervisor. We're there to answer that question. If there's a concern that we need to actually come out and visit with the student, we will actually be there that day or the following day to meet with that student to go over what the concerns are. We really want to make this a one-stop shop for our partners, right? We don't want to burden them. We feel that companies are doing us a service by hosting our interns. So how do we take and support them through that process? Todd does a great job at putting together our quarterly newsletter. I think the shortest newsletter we've put out over the last year and a half or 2 years here has now been about 8 pages long. We love to put companies' logos out there. We love to do stories about internship experiences and really get that out there in newsletters and social media to let people know what companies are here in the area. Once again, we've taken students out to different tours. People don't know that some of the things that are being made right here in their own neighborhoods. How do we take and highlight those things so that not only do the students know, but the parents know? And then also, parents still think, or quite a few parents still think, that manufacturing is this dangerous, dark, dirty type of job. I don't want my student or my kid going to work at a manufacturing facility. We're trying to highlight the great things that are going on within manufacturing across the whole region, and working with companies and showing parents that these are not the manufacturing jobs of years and years ago. These are very high tech jobs that students are involved in, and that they have to have some really skilled labor in order to do these types of things. And then we want to
But
sit and work with the district or work with the businesses and work with the students on exit interviews. How did it go? What do we need to improve on? We will always say that we never think that anything is perfect, that we want to continue to make continuous improvement on our process and on our procedures and how we're getting the right students out there in place. Todd, you had something else to add?
these experiences really benefit long term. It's a long term relationship. So part of it is it's the difference between intentional hiring versus unintentional hiring, and it's the difference between random acts of getting a good employee and intentionally growing your own. But even if these students don't come back to work with you right away, the relationship that you build with them and the relationship these students build with your workers goes on and lasts for a long time. I just received an email last week from one of our interns from last summer. It was a St. Charles North student who interned with HLR engineering in Elgin, and then did architectural work with Judson. And she was so happy. She reached out and wanted to let us know she got accepted to MIT. So she's going to MIT to study engineering, and she's going to do really well. But you know what? She's still going to go back to those companies and visit with them. They're still proud of her accomplishments. It kind of builds everyone up. It builds that momentum. So some students will stay with your organization. Some students will go on, but they will carry a bit of you wherever they go, and they will stay connected with you. They will stay connected with you in many ways. So it's one of those things that not only benefits your company, benefits the intern, but it fills everyone's bucket.
I think another piece of that, right, is that we have had students in the past that have interned, have gone back to school the following year, and the company has asked them to come back and intern the following summer above and beyond our program. Or the company has said, hey, we want to keep you involved. Let's try to find, like I said, we don't want it to just stop at the internship. We want to help you find great candidates for your open positions. And then we want to work with organizations like the TMA or the community college that have apprenticeship programs and show you the next steps. How do we get those students to take the jump? If they're going to stay local, how do they make the jump from, being your intern to now being an apprentice getting paid? And how do we show companies the benefits of apprenticeship programs as well? So how do we continue to build those up?
So here was one of my takeaways. So here I was superintendent for 14 years of a school district, and I promoted career tech education. But I was still working under the assumption that with career tech education in high school, we were preparing these students really to go on either into an apprenticeship program or go on into community college where they were really going to gain in their skills or go on to work and learn program or four-year institution. What I didn't realize is how advanced our career tech education programs really are in high school, and that the type of things that they're working with. Like we have a 5-axis CNC mill. Our students come out with numerous certifications that are valued by industry. And then they can build upon that either through the company or through a community college. But here I was as superintendent. Shame on me, I should have known better, but our students were actually better prepared in high school than I ever thought they were. And many of these students, as Terry mentioned, once they intern with the company wants to hold on to them. They want to maintain a relationship with them. They want to build into that. And it's across different fields. Hall Miller, they kept an intern, and now that intern, after graduation, is going to stay on with them. We have one with Service Concepts for HVAC from last summer, and now that company is going to bring him back, and they're going to put him through the union apprenticeship program. So they have, and this happens across all fields. Even Wintrust Bank are maintaining their employees over time. So it shows, I think, the power of this. If it wasn't this powerful, it wouldn't have grown at the rate at which it's grown. So 3 years ago, when I started in this position, we were at 80 some interns in the summer, and over a 3-year period, we're over 300. Now, the only reason we're there is because the companies have seen that it's a real win-win. If it wasn't meaningful, those numbers wouldn't be where they're at.
So part of our commitment here, we'll talk a little bit about this. When Todd talks about the certifications that students are earning, we're not just going out and finding random students to fill positions and kind of dumping students into things and, oh, here, try this out. That's not our purpose. With our process, we have students. So we send out the list we showed you of all the summer internships that are available. That list here goes out to students to review. Students are then given the opportunity to apply for no more than 2 positions off that list. So really trying to hone in their experience, hone in what their career goals are, to then go ahead and see what are jobs that are available in that area. From there, we're going to review resumes. We're going to talk to the teachers. We want to find out the best quality students for those internships. Students have to have a professional resume ready to go. So when we look at those things, we want to see what classes students have taken. So for manufacturing, it could be that they've taken 2 years of welding. They've taken 2 years of advanced manufacturing. I will put, I know one of our current instructors was also an instructor at the TMA, and has that experience of knowing what is being looked for in those students. How do we take that experience and then pair them up with the right company, with the right position for the company and for that student? After we have vetted those resumes, then we're going to send those resumes that we've vetted out to the companies. Here, we want you now to review those resumes. We want you to interview the students. We want to work through that process to get students, the right student for your company and your position. Are they motivated in this area? I just sent out resumes last week to, as Todd mentioned before, HLR, their civil engineering. We had a great resume. Young lady said that she wanted to be in engineering. This is what she wants to do as a career. But further inspection of her resume did not mention anything about civil engineering. The company reviewed her resume and said, hey, we noticed that she didn't say anything about civil engineering. She wants to do more biomedical, more of this engineering. They said, we would rather not take her. We want someone who's more engaged with civil engineering. I had ITW Shakeproof, who they actually interviewed two students last Friday and asked them questions about what are their goals as far as engineering? What do they want to learn about? What has their experience been with engineering so far? So we want to get the companies just as involved in this process as they want to be. If you want to interview those students, we're going to let you do that, and then go from there. Now, uh, Tom, I already looked up your company already this morning. I see you're about down toward the city more. How do we help if we don't have it or we don't have students that are going to travel that far? How do I find a partner or a partner school that may have that closer to you, right? How do we try to find someone for you to partner with? I know I've been up in Steve's former neck of the woods there in McHenry. How do we find companies up there for those students? So if we meet with a company or we meet a company somewhere and they say, hey, well, here, I'm located in Bloomington. I'm located out in St. Charles. I'm located down in the south suburbs. How do I find then my counterpart in those areas? How do I find a school that I know has those experiences going on to help push that and give those opportunities to those students in that area? So that's all part of the work we do as well. We're here to make partnerships. We're not here to, just only help out the people that are in our immediate area with those types of things. Doing things like this, where we're providing resources to our partners. When we have a company that says, well, I can't have students out on the floor. It's against OSHA rules. It's against the Department of Labor rules. Well, no, we're going to help you maybe understand some more of that and what those things look like. How are we going to provide that resource? Maybe you're looking for another company to partner with that we may have a relationship with that other company. We're going to point you in the right direction that way as well. As we've mentioned time and time again during this presentation, we see this as a partnership. We don't see this as, we're taking something from you and that's the only way we're doing this. We really want to work together and help make everyone better in this situation. We want to open this up for questions or comments or concerns that some of you may have with things.
The thing that interests us mostly is the apprenticeship going into program. Um, it's very hard, very difficult, as you can imagine, getting people to come into manufacturing facilities. So, we've always had good luck with getting relatives or, friends of friends or, people here who are vested in the organization to bring people in. So how far along is this apprenticeship program? And, has this been something that's been going on for a while? And as far as the company doing sponsoring an apprenticeship, like who could come help us set up, the criteria, the academics, the syllabus, and all that different stuff, for an apprenticeship program to be successful?
So let's start back at the beginning there with how do you get more people into your facility, right, to see what's going on, let kids see that these are opportunities. We do a couple different things. We do career fairs for even our eighth graders, letting them see we have companies come out and participate in those career fairs so that companies can show off what they make. But one of the biggest ones that Todd and I work on is Manufacturing Month. So every October, for the last, well, ever since we got out of COVID, so the last 5 years now, we've hosted Manufacturing Month tours for companies. So we work on setting up with our schools to have our students go out and visit companies in the area. And I can put you in the right direction there, Tom, with some people from Chicago Public Schools or like Wheeling High School has a great manufacturing program. How do you get those students and host them, even for as short as an hour-long tour to come in, see what you make, let them get more involved, have some of the counselors there to see what you guys do, how you work on different things, what are the products you make, kind of go from there. How do we build that up, right? From
Many of
there,
our, oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Todd.
Many of our interns from those manufacturing tours, if they participate in the internship program, they have said that they applied for that internship because of the visit that they had during the manufacturing week tours in October. And they were so impressed with the company, they wanted to intern with them.
So, how do we then move from the internship, Tom, to your question of going into that apprenticeship program, right? There are a couple different ways you can do that. Um, we can look at the TMA as a way to send students out. I know that you have Ridgewood High School that's not too far from you there that has a manufacturing program. They send students out to the TMA for their classwork and their coursework with everything. And then they're working with companies around the area. Uh, if you're looking to have a Department of Labor approved apprenticeship program, two different ways you can do it. One, you can pull up the paperwork from the Department of Labor, and I can email you out. I can get your contact information if you want to, and then from Justine, I can send you out the connections there for the Department of Labor. She can actually sit down with your company and go through if you guys want to be the ones that control that. I'd say most companies are afraid of the amount of paperwork that's involved, but our contact with the Department of Labor is really good at walking people through that paperwork, getting it all set up. Or you could look to one of the community colleges, city colleges of Chicago, and which has the manufacturing program there, and have them be the intermediary for those types of apprenticeship programs. So a couple different ways. Justine, I saw you unmute yourself there. I don't want you to jump in.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in. Tom, I can connect you with our director of training, Cassie. I'm actually just messaging her right now. I was asking if you guys had anyone in our apprenticeship program. We also have a DOL contact, so that would let me just connect you with Cassie, not to take away from what Terry is saying, but we have a girl, we got Rachel. She is from the DOL and she can help you set it up internally. And Cassie can help you figure out your needs. If it needs to be a custom on-site apprenticeship program, we can help you do that. Or if you want your people to come to our Schaumburg headquarters, anything like that, let me put you in contact with Cassie.
Great. Thank you both.
So I think with that, one of the things that people don't understand is once you have an approved apprenticeship program, that actually lowers the age down to 16 for students to be involved. This is how Ridgewood High School out there in just east of O'Hare, how they run theirs. Because they have an approved apprenticeship program or they're working on an approved apprenticeship program, students are going to the TMA. Those classes, that high school coursework can count toward their apprenticeship, get them started in that apprenticeship program. Once you have an approved apprenticeship program, by lowering the age to 16, your insurance company cannot say that they won't insure someone below the age of 18. We hear that all the time from folks is that, well, if they're not 18, we can't do it. If you have an approved apprenticeship program, there are certain jobs that students are not allowed to do. They can't drive a forklift. They can't use an overhead hoist. They can't climb up on a ladder. They can't drive heavy equipment, trucks, things like that. But they can work on quality control. They can do machining with CNC machines. They can do different pieces within that. So the insurance company then has to accept that that's an approved apprenticeship program. And they can't argue that piece out anymore. But I think a lot of companies, and we've talked to a lot of insurance companies who don't understand those rules. So as Justine mentioned, talking to Rachel with their Department of Labor contact, ours out here is Nakia. She does a great job with helping set things up, but it's really about setting up when students are going to start, what are the classes that are involved, who's paying for the classes, things like that. Another piece we talk about all the time with our students with CNC work. Our students do NIMS credentialing, so the National Institute of Metalworking. They earn a CNC operator, a CNC setup, or lathe operator, lathe setup, mill operator, mill setup. So they're coming in with skills, having worked on machinery that you may already have. I saw on your website you guys do welding there. So we have students that are going through a program in the high school to where they're able to come out and be American Welding Society certified, MIG, TIG, and stick welding. So what are those skill sets? How does that coursework build into that apprenticeship program? Or better yet, if it's dual credit that's being done through a community college, how are those classes that then the company will not have to pay for because they're already being covered as part of the student's high school curriculum with those things? Any other questions?
Yeah, one quick one. Is anybody in the industry, in the educational industry, apprentice, anyone do anything with press breaks? You ever heard any schools or anything like this that get involved in like press breaks?
So that's the hard part. In the school system, press breaks are seen as hazardous. So we can't work on those inside the school. That's one of the ones that they have to be 18 or older or have intermittent use while they're out on site.
Okay, that's a
Like I
big.
had,
That's a huge need for us.
yeah, and that's where, as Todd and I mentioned, if you were to get someone in, early on and they're maybe doing quality control, they're doing other things, they're shadowing people, they may be learning about that operation of that press break for a period of time. And then once they turn 18, now they're able to fully work that press break. Now they're past that hazardous operation age with those types of things.
Thank you again.
The biggest piece that we have seen, once again, how do we get kids to even see that this is going on, that these things are made right in their own backyards? We have a company that we've taken students to for the last couple of years. They make all the paper bowls for Chipotle, and they make all the paper cups for Starbucks, and in their manufacturing facility. And once students get in there and they are able to make a connection between things that they see on a regular basis with things that are being made right in their own neighborhoods, and they don't even know that they're there, now it's an aha moment. Well, I didn't know that could be a job. How many times, Todd, have we had kids that say when they want to go into mechanical engineering, but then they say they don't want to work for a manufacturing company? And we try to tell them, we're like, do you realize how many manufacturing companies are hiring mechanical engineers to do all these different things? Or how do we take and expand the knowledge of students into students who are in our autos department or autos classes? They're really good with turning wrenches, working with their hands. Well, hey, did you also know that you can go be an industrial maintenance tech and do similar work, but just on large machinery for a lot of these manufacturing companies, repairing these types of things? And you're able to make probably better money doing that than you would be as an auto mechanic. So how do we continue to expand the knowledge that students have?
So much of this, as we're talking, so much of this work that we're doing, it's all building the power of relationships. And so the importance of meeting the right teachers that are teaching the skill set that you're looking for in your employees. So it's really getting in touch with the right people, and then developing a relationship. And like we talked about that chart at the beginning, start where you're comfortable starting in that relationship building. But over time, as you build that and you're talking to the teachers and you're meeting the students, you're going to find some really good people. And from there, it's going to ramp up. From there, and then good things are really going to happen. But it really starts with relationship building, you finding out what the schools can actually offer in your area, uh, and then finding out for the schools to find out what really drives you and what you need, and then look to where we can tailor the right students with your industry needs because they're out there. They're out there. We just need to be more systematic about how we develop those relationships and help everyone grow in knowledge about each other. And we can help facilitate that. So, it might not be our region, but we can help be the bridge for your company and to the schools and the providers that are around you. We're happy to do that and partner with you to be that bridge and to open up those doors and help make that happen. Because it's really about building the future workforce everywhere across our region and state.
Steve, I want to jump in there and see if you had any questions. I know you've been teaching this for quite a while here, and what you've seen from companies. What do you see are big barriers for getting more students in there with things?
Well, it's the same thing that you were just talking about. It's about building relationships. I'm working with McHenry High School right now, and two new teachers just starting out actually, and they're just starting out in the manufacturing program, and now we're talking to businesses around there to build relationships, and that's the whole idea. We just They just called a manufacturer out in Wakanda, and that person now is going to build a relationship now with McHenry High School. So they just started that. Way the program kind of fell apart a little bit, but now it's getting back up again. So two new teachers understanding that relationships are a part of it. One of the questions that I had is there any goal that you might have for like the summer internship? You mentioned the NIMS program, and I always like the NIMS program because it's a great assessment program. So kids are going into, I'm just going to stick with manufacturing because but it's also if you have other internships outside of manufacturing, what is the goal of the internship for that summer? Or is it just to learn the process of the company?
Well, I think for us, like I said, it's that long-term job interview, right? We want to have students that are in there, learning about the company, learning about the jobs they do with the company, but then also learning the culture of that company, right? And then while the company is actually interviewing, so our internships are 60 hours. So they're 2 to 3 weeks long, right? It's 20 hours a week or 30
Oh,
hours a week for a student, 2 to 3 weeks. Or if the company said, hey, we want them here for 8 weeks, right? Then we need to work out something different. We have grant sources, things like that we help to kind of for seed money to help get, a stipend for that at $15 to $18 an hour to get them started. This helps build a little more skin in the game for the student, and if the company then said, hey, we want to keep them on, we did the 2 or 3 weeks, we like them, we want to keep them on for the rest of the summer part-time, then we transition that student to being part-time with that company. As Todd mentioned, when I started this, Todd was actually one of my superintendents that I reported to in my region. And when we started, we had 52 students out in summer internships. That's now grown to this coming summer of 2026. We're going to have over 300 students outplaced. So it's really about getting the students in the right spot, getting them in with a great company, showing them that where's that career opportunity. We have a couple companies who've taken students on who now they may have apprenticeship programs already. It's a way for that company to interview that student before putting money out for that apprenticeship program, right? And they're now with that apprenticeship program, you're possibly paying for college tuition. You're doing tuition reimbursement of some kind. You're investing money in that student. So how do we help by using this program to get you the right student that you're going to invest in, right? We don't want to just put money out for anybody. We want to make sure they're the right person that's going to stick around for a period of time. So how do we help build that piece there? We had set a goal for us for 300 at least for this summer. Now, that can't be done without partnerships that we have with the community college. So our local community college is paying for 100 of those interns through a statewide grant that they have. So how do we help build those types of things up? How do we look for other grant sources, right, to get those things going and get people more involved with that? So I hope that kind of answers your question there on where we're at with the program.
No, it does. Thank you. Also, the importance of the high schools getting an advisory, some sort of advisory committee and meeting
Yep.
with that. Uh,
Yes.
that that again, that again, as Woodstock High School that I'm working with and McHenry, their advisory committees kind of fell apart as teachers retired out of the system. So getting that back running, at least trying to meet quarterly, or maybe one semester or twice a year, that connection to again builds relationships. And so if area businesses can work with a high school or work with a district, that would really be a big help as far as getting kids into the internship programs.
And and to what you're saying is just like businesses are on this journey, so are school districts, and so are regions. And
Mhm.
some regions and some districts are better about the advisory committees and
Yes.
really getting industry feedback. And that's
Yes,
a
you're
work
right.
in progress that we're tackling with our partners too, because we really need to design our programs around your needs. And we don't know your needs unless you're at the table. So that is, we agree with you, and that's a work in progress on our end for strengthening that as well.
Yeah.
I think in the same way, right? Knowing who to contact at the schools, right? Knowing if you're a company, you're trying to get in with the schools, who do you contact? Most people would think that they need to contact the principal or they need to contact maybe out in a district in the suburbs that they got to contact the superintendent. Some of those people may not be the right people to contact. How do we find the right person to get you in contact with? But then how do we talk to schools about the fact of you know, out here, 4 or 5 years ago, we started talking about mechatronics and automation and industrial maintenance. And people were like, well, what's that? I don't understand what that is, right? But the industry people understood what that was. They understood their needs for those pieces. How do we get the school districts to see the need to start a program? To see that, well, wait a minute, there are jobs available. If I just educate the students the right way, we're going to get them with good jobs, good careers. But also, a lot of the talk with our schools is how are students performing? What's the graduation rate? How are they proficient in math and in science and in reading? By having strong career tech ed programs, we're improving all those data metrics. But we need companies to step up and say, these are our needs. This is what we need to focus on. You think back to years and years ago, CVS High School in Chicago, huge vocational programs, right? Lots of things going on. And that kind of went away in the late 80s, early 90s, because there was this big push for everyone needs to go get a 4 year degree from a university. And now what we've come to find is that not everyone does need to go to that big university and get a college degree. They need to have skills that are gonna, like Todd says, are gonna pay the bills, right? They need to have some skills that are gonna get them employable. Not every college degree is worth that of another. Are they getting us in a position to be employable? Uh, the funny part is only 25% of jobs nationwide require a bachelor's degree or higher. The majority of jobs are in the manufacturing realm that require, more training than beyond high school, but they don't need necessarily a college degree. So how do we build those types of things together? Show students that these are options out there, but also have programs within our schools that are going to pique the interest of our students, keep them in school, keep them learning, and let them learn about some of these skills that are out there that can make them, set up for life with a great career.
a experience that I just had last week, and this is going on to that same idea about dual credit. McHenry County College is now setting up what is called a practicum semester for students. And there was one student I was working with at McHenry High School where I set her up. She wants to be a business major, and she's kind of looking at a 2+2 situation where she goes to McHenry County College for 2 years and then goes on to a university of her choice and for the other 2 years. But during that 2 years, the business department is going to have her actually work with a practicum where she's actually working and going to school at MCC at the same time. And that is also that practicum is a requirement for her to get her certificate in her AAS degree in business marketing. I That's a new program. That's a trial program just coming out of MCC. I thought that was a good way. It sounds like practicums now are a way that maybe community colleges are thinking and where they're going. So again, that's just another part where businesses can get involved, the TMA can get involved, and more than just the CTE. I mean, business is part of CTE, but more than just the industrial technology end of CTE, also working with, the business students.
Absolutely. It's learning what's out there and how do we get involved in what's out there, right? And being able to go from there. Tom, any other questions from the business side of things?
No, like I said, our biggest thing is getting qualified people in here, and we do we do have a lot of individuals that are relatives and people that have been taught from other people in the shop, but they only know what we know. You know what I mean? It's hard getting individuals in here that have other experiences, or especially because we're a smaller company and our pay scale is a little bit on the lower end. Um, it's real difficult to get the higher experienced, more expertise type operators. So it's always beneficial for us to develop people within, or go through like what we hope is maybe an apprenticeship program to do that. That's always our challenge is we can't pay top dollar. We're just not that big of a company. So uh, you know organizations and programs like this, we've done a couple different times through other avenues, and they've worked out. So from a business standpoint, this is definitely something that we're looking at.
Well, as I said, I'll get your contact information from Justine. I can send you an email. And I'll actually meeting with state directors tomorrow, so I can find out who the new state director is there for Chicago Public Schools, and we can talk about what they have as far as manufacturing programs. Get you in touch with the right people there. Ridgewood High School out there in Norridge, it's not terribly far away. They've been working with TMA
Yeah,
now for a couple years.
yeah. I looked
Um,
them, I looked them up. They're about a 35-minute drive from us right now. So
yeah, so we try to keep our students when we do internships, we try to keep them within a half an hour, 40 minutes of their home school. So that's not terribly far away, but it's at least students that are interested, right, that want to get into the trade. But like I said, I'll try to find out more information for you there on what the closest Chicago public school is that would have manufacturing programs and things like that for you to get in contact with.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Justine, anything we missed, do you think?
I don't think so. I just want to thank you guys so much for being here, and I'm glad we got this recorded so we can be sharing this out with our members. And just thank you for your thoughts and just trying to uplift this next generation and keep everyone kind of connected and get get the industry moving with the new innovators we got coming. So thank you.
Is there any way we
Absolutely.
get a copy of the presentation so at least
Yeah.
I can pass it along to upper management and just
Yep. I will send it out to everyone, and when it loads, right this morning. I'll send it out.
Great.
Thank you so
And
much.
then, Tom, as your upper management has questions or anything like that, we can jump on another call. We're more than happy to do that for you.
Yeah,
Kind of answer any questions they might have as you're going through things.
most of them are TMA members, Jeff Deck and Colin. I forget his last name. They've been TMA members and on the boards for many years.